Hello, it's Romanosky from Calgary, Canada. I'm shooting from the lug nuts facility, and the vehicle I have behind me is a 2002 Toyota Tacoma. This is an example of the first gen Tacoma, still in a relatively small size. I think there's been 4 generations of Tacoma altogether, and the new ones are quite large. So this is one of the original small Toyota pickups that would have been, been around since the lineage of which would have been around since the 1960s, which would have been kind of made famous in the Back to the Future movie and Top Gear when they tried to destroy one and so on. So it's a very famous vehicle. They've made millions of them. They're everywhere from in Africa, where the Toyota legendary reliability isn't just a convenience. It can mean, literally life or death. And we have Tacomas on in the Army for the good guys and the bad guys, in all sorts of places in the world, produced in the millions. And the truck is known for its absolutely legendary reliability and durability. And actually, because of that, the Tacoma has the distinction of all the new cars that you can buy, the Tacoma holds its value better than any single other car. And that list is actually made up mostly of Toyotas, but the Tacoma is at the top of the list. Now, most of these vehicles are working vehicles that were used hard, and many of them have 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 kilometers on them. This one is unique in that it has 44,000 miles. It's a US car. It came up to Canada a couple of years ago after being bought on Bring a Trailer. So it's about 70,000 kilometers, 44,000 miles, and it has its original paint. And it's never been rusted, never been hit, and it's really in beautiful condition. So this is a extremely well preserved version of a really popular truck. But because just about all of those trucks were, driven into the ground, basically, this one remains as one of the well preserved ones. And what we've seen on Bring a Trailer and other sites is that there's a lot of people who have a fondness for these, 90s and 2000s Japanese cars, the small trucks, some of the tuner cars from that era as well, and they've become like future collectibles. But only for the best well-preserved cars. I mean, the ones that are rusty are just used cars, but this one isn't like that. Okay, so we'll do this walk-around video as a preview. Vehicles being auctioned online. It's been on Bring a Trailer twice already. But it's going back, and the only reason it's selling is the owner just bought a new Tacoma TRD Pro. Okay, but that, like I said, that vehicle is a much bigger size, and it isn't as, I would say, fun to drive. It might be more capable in many ways, but there's something about sitting close together, on a shorter wheelbase on a narrower truck that makes it more maneuverable, easier to get, through the bush or overland. But also kind of easier to drive in the city, but also just makes it more fun to drive. Okay, so with that, we'll do this walk-around video. We'll do an exterior walk-around. We have a paint meter, so we can demonstrate that it has the original paint depth. We can go through the interior. We've lifted the car on the hoist. We'll do a video underneath the car, and then we'll do a driving video, perhaps a separate video, maybe not in this one, but we'll follow it up with a cold start and a driving video. Not that you have to worry about 70,000 kilometer Toyotas. I mean, they just work. And this vehicle as well it's just going to the dealership for a full service now, okay? So this is a opportunity to get one of the first generation Tacomas in a great color combination with great options, tasteful mods, with really low kilometers, and most importantly, all original paintwork and no accidents or corrosion. So let's go to the first part of the video, which is the walk around. Okay, so we can just start on one corner, and then we can look for damage on the bumpers. Obviously, that's the first thing that'll get damaged usually, and we don't see any scrapes or scuffs on the rubber or the chrome. Sometimes if the bumper gets hit, then it's loose because you'll break the clips behind it. We don't see that. The lenses are still clear. The chrome is unpitted, and it hasn't oxidized. Okay, the grill's still in nice shape, and again, no oxidation, no fading from the plastic. We just washed it. There's a little bit of condensation in the light, but that goes away. And the fog lights are not broken, and again, no scuffs on the bumper. We don't see any door dings at all on the sides of the car. The panels are still straight. There's a couple of scratches that have been picked up. There was some sort of, acid rain or something that was spilled there. Is buffed out a little bit. It's a little bit cloudy in that area. We see a little bit of a scratch here. It's very faint. It might polish out. There'd probably be some still stuff remaining, but it's very faint. When it was new, it had these, like a wrap on the edges of the doors, so then they're protected. So it goes about 1 centimeter along all the doors. And there's also wrap on the front of the fenders as well, from here on down. So a good 18 inches or whatever of the front hood and fenders are protected. The running boards are still in nice shape. Often these pieces rust prematurely. The fasteners or the coating, powder coating flakes off and it starts to rust. Not in this case, they're still in nice shape. We've got a few marks from putting stuff in the bed, a few, the odd chips. Again, it's original paint, so you would expect that on a truck. The tailgate is in really nice shape. One tiny little mark there. Otherwise, it looks perfect. And I believe there is film on the tailgate. On the top of the tailgate, these can be really marked up depending on what people have done with it. And this bed liner looks still in good shape. None of the fasteners are rusted. And then we can see the bed extender and the Thule rack that is installed. The rear bumper, it looks like, not sure what's going on here, a little bit of oxidation or contamination. Not sure if that comes off or not. Not easily anyway. So we've got a little bit of modeling on the chrome of the rear bumper, but nothing that is rusted. The lenses for the lights are still clear. We have film that has been PPF film on the lower rear fenders, and this has done its job, collected a few rocks, and the film is then scratched, but not the paint underneath the film. The fender flares on all four corners look good. There's the odd tiny little mark, where something has been fitted in the truck. When the truck was new, it had a roof rack installed, and the roof rack did put these little dents in the top of the roof. Those could easily be taken out with paintless dent removal. We have this film that's protected the trailing edge of the door, and we have a few little scratches, minor scratches, in the leading edge of the rear door. There's no flaking of the powder coat material on the running boards on this side, and we don't see any evidence of any door dings. I suppose the door would hit the running board before it would ever hit the door, and that's why it's perfectly smooth. Okay, so the paint retains a really nice luster. It's 22-year-old original paint, but the vehicle has been garaged. A very nice life outside of Canada in the southern U.S. It's only been in Canada for a couple of years, and it's been very well taken care of and garaged in Canada. And we can see underneath the car that underneath the truck that it looks virtually brand new. So on the exterior, I mean, it looks pretty good. I mean, you have to get up really close to see anything that you'd think is a flaw. It looks, well, it looks like it's a few-year-old truck. It does not look like it is 22 years old. I rode in, I'm not a Tacoma expert. I rode in the truck a couple of times. I've seen it many times. I had no idea it was a 2002 just because it looks so nice. So I was surprised about that. Okay, so let's go inside. And again, the truck has had a really easy life. The gray interior looks beautiful. Carpets look beautiful. There's no rips, stains, or tears on any of the upholstery. We don't have any scratches in the dash. Nothing was mounted on the dash. There's no extra holes. It has its original audio equipment and so on. It doesn't really look like anybody's ever been in the back of this car. You know, it's an extremely well-preserved car. You know, a Tacoma that comes from Canada that's driven in the winter every year is not going to look anything like this whatsoever. I had a Tundra, and within 2 years, the chassis was rusted to the point where I could see that I was going to have trouble undoing bolts. And the chassis, we'll get to that later, but the chassis on this looks brand new. So I know Toyota has a well-deserved reputation for long-term reliability and low cost of ownership and high resale. What they don't do particularly well is coat the panels for rust proofing. And so that's the one flaw of Toyotas, especially in Canada and Alberta and where they use salts, is they rust very quickly. So in this case, this vehicle has no corrosion whatsoever on it, which is extremely rare in these parts anyway. And the only thing that explains it is the car spent its life in the dry southern U.S. states before coming up here. So if we go over to the driver's side, you know, we don't see, you know, a lot of times, again, especially if it's in the winter, the salt gets in and then the dirt and stones and so on, and it wears the carpet out and really thins it out, and you get salt stains everywhere. So we don't see any of that. Carpet's in beautiful shape. There's no bolster wear to speak of. There's no scratching on the sills. There's no marks on the steering wheel or the gear selector level. You know, there was nothing, you know, spilled in the car. There's no odors. Looks like the mirror was changed to an aftermarket one. Door cards are all still in really nice shape. Like overall, it's just, I mean, it's just excellent. I would say even that it really is impossible to reasonably fault for this year and mileage. There's nothing in this that I think that anybody could reasonably complain about. Let's look under the hood. Tacoma's had various configurations, 2 and 4-door and standard cab and crew cab and various engines and so on. And this one is the largest cab, crew cab, 4-door with the biggest engine. As Aidan and I found out, the latch isn't the easiest thing to find. But if you stick your finger in, which one is it? There, you can find it. All right. So it's on a prop rod, and we'll set that up. There, I guess. All right, 3400 4-cam V6, 24 valve. It's around, I think it's 190 horsepower, something like that. Probably around the same pound-feet of torque. Entirely adequate for this vehicle. It's had regular servicing at the dealers. It's about to go into the Toyota dealer to get the servicing up to date, to get a major service. So that'll be fresh when the car is listed. And this is a U.S. car, so if it goes back to the U.S., the emissions are good for Canada and the U.S. And Tacomas are built in the U.S., so a U.S. buyer wouldn't have to pay duty because the because the car was built in a NAFTA zone. And there's no compliance issues because, of course, it started life in the US. And of course, we've got this bed liner, and we've got assorted bungee cords and so on that are in there. It has been used, but the bed liner is not chewed up at all, and it's got the Thule roof rack on it and this bed extender. The vehicle was lightly modified. Of course, the wheels and tires aren't stock. It has a lift kit on it, and you see the accessories that are mounted in the rear. When it was bought on Bring a Trailer, it had that roof rack. That was taken off because it just made the vehicle too tall, and it was on its OEM wheels. And we still have the OEM wheels, but I think these make it look a whole lot better, I guess, in our opinion. And then it's lifted a couple of inches, which gives it really quite a unique stance. So otherwise, the vehicle's stock, powertrain stock, exhaust is stock, the catalytic converters haven't been touched, infotainment hasn't been touched, so the modifications are just limited to the suspension, and of course all that is reversible. Okay, so let's do a paint meter. We'll start in the front fender. This is measuring in micrometers. For a new car, generally you're looking for, anywhere between 100 and 180 micrometers, mostly 120s, 130s, 140s, and 50s. If it's a repaint, it's 300, 400, 500. And if it's it's a classic car with a high block filler, it can get up to 1 millimeter. But for a brand new car with original paint, we're looking in the low 100s, low to mid 100s. So we get 103, 163, 160, 160, and notice when we go here, we're going to go to 250. That's because there's 3M on the front, okay? Or film on the front. On the hood, 138, 126. Now we get to film, 304, 135, 132, and now there's film, so we get 296. 136, 132, and now there's film, 280. There's film here too, 287. Now we're in sheet metal, so 120, 102, 89, 107, 120, 105, 96, 148, 130, 134, 122, 130. Tailgate has film on it. 248, 244, 259. Go to the rear fender. 131, 143. Down here there's film. 246. Continue. 142, 131, 119, 123, 143, 134, 133, 155, and 109. So that is exactly what you want to see when you do a paint meter on a car. And this shows unequivocally that it does, in fact, have all the original paint, and more than that, it's 22 years old. The paint looks great. So let's have a look at the underside of this 2002 Toyota Tacoma. First, we can see that it has aftermarket shocks. iBox, and it has had a lift kit, so those springs are presumably aftermarket as well. We can see that the underside is extremely clean, especially for a Toyota, whose long-term reliability is without peer and the standard of the entire industry, but the rust proofing isn't. And I know on my Tundra, it was only a year and a half old. It only had 2 winters on it, and I was already seeing fasteners that were almost too rusted to be able to undo. So I'm not sure the combination of very little salt for this Tacoma, and maybe something they did differently in 2002. But you know, all of these bolts look like they'd come off easily. Even the exhaust, we can see the underside of the floor. Even there's just not a speck of rust underneath this truck. I can't imagine there's too many 2002 Toyota Tacomas that look like this underneath. I mean, this looks like a 2 or 3 year old car. It does not look like a 20-year-old, 22, 23-year-old car to me. There's a little bit of mud on it, but I mean, you can tell this thing has had a pretty easy life. Now, explaining it a little bit is it was owned by a restaurateur who I think mostly just used it to, you know, travel between his different restaurants carrying, you know, whatever he needed to carry for each restaurant. And, you know, it was never driven off-road or, like I said, never driven extensively in the salt. And, you know, never driven on the highway where it would get, or no, I should never, but seldom used on the highway where it would get peppered with stone chips, which would then rust. There's no leaking of anything, which I guess is normal for a Tacoma. And then all of the bushes and so on, the rubbers, there's nothing that appears split or damaged or compromised. You know, so it's pretty tight to drive, and I can't fault the car at all. So this is, well, this has got to be one of the best Tacomas extant from this year. Low mileage, and like I said, it's superb shape underneath. And when you look at a truck underneath, you can get a pretty good idea of what it's gone through. So in summary, I think we have something of a unicorn with this car. I mean, how many 22-year-old vehicles only have 70,000 kilometers? If you rule out the Exotica, then not many. And Toyotas tend to accumulate, you know, the highest mileages of all. It's not uncommon to see, you know, 4- and 5-year-old Toyotas with 200,000 kilometers on them. So this one has been gently driven, and it's been driven in a dry U.S. states for the vast majority of its life. And it's been well cared for in Canada. And so the main thing with the car or the truck is that it's an original paint car, and it's never been hit, and it's never had any paint work, and it's never had any corrosion, and the underneath of the car has always been clean, and the interior has always been clean. So it's just a well-preserved, original example of a car that they may have made millions of, but very, very few survive in this kind of condition. And it is, I would say, one of the last of the sort of original compact pickups. Small size, 4-wheel drive, lots of ground clearance, lots of fun, very maneuverable, and again, fun to drive. Where when the trucks get bigger and more powerful, they might be satisfying in other ways, but they lose that maneuverability and they lose that kind of fun factor. So these have now become collectible. They're virtually as expensive as a new one, and they've really sort of you know, gone up with a lot of the 90s and 2000s cars that many people now, with a lot of discretionary income, you know, 20 years ago, really wanted when they were new. So that's kind of lifted the market on these cars. This is a great example of the first gen Toyota Tacoma in great colors, great mods, great condition with very low mileage. So thank you very much for viewing. Lawrence Romanosky from Calgary, Canada. And I'll mention Aidan Goss for shooting the video. And please like and subscribe. And if you're interested in this Tacoma, please bid. Thank you very much.